Randomness? Not in my card game. How's it going, everybody? I hope you're all having a fantastic day and are enjoying Hearthstone because I'm actually having a lot of fun with anomalies, and that is going to be the topic of today's video, is quote-unquote, are anomalies corrupting Hearthstone? Well, technically they are because they wouldn't be happening if they weren't corrupting the game, but there is a lot of community sentiment that is very negative towards anomalies, and I wanted to use today, after experiencing anomalies for essentially 7 hours yesterday, to give my take on whether or not they are good for the game, if they're bad for the game, or whether or not people are just overreacting things like usual. Because, in all honesty, I think anomalies are absolutely fine. And today I'm going to go through a couple of takes right here because on Twitter.com, as you usually see, you have a lot of people's opinions that I want to go over real quick. So after 5 hours of playing anomalies while I was live on stream, I tweeted this out being like, everyone complaining about them needs to apologize to the designers. You guys are completely overreacting. And the reason why I said this is because Cora ended up deleting some tweets because she started receiving some engagement that she was not comfortable with, aka she was getting flamed on Twitter because people on Reddit were not happy about this apparently. And can we just take a moment to say that it's not that big of a deal to where if you are typing unsavoring things to anybody in general on Twitter, you could literally be doing anything better with your life? Just wanted to throw that out there because apparently in 2023, everybody has to let everybody know exactly how they feel about everything, and it is kind of ironic that I'm making a YouTube video about this, but point is, just take a moment to relax before you start, adding the devs on Twitter, because keep in mind, they don't have to be making these tweets to be engaging with us and to communicate with us. They could very easily just quote-unquote ruin the game, never talk to us about it, and never give us any closure on why they made these decisions. So the fact that they're even tweeting in the first place is honestly a privilege, and I don't want to lose that privilege because some person can't handle randomness or really just has a bad day and has to take it out on somebody else. And speaking of rage, even Zeddy, after 2 hours, the anomaly doesn't feel that crazy. They're not super impactful for the most part. They just add a bit of spice to the game. I'm enjoying it and don't understand why some people are losing their minds over it. And then you have Fino saying something very similar. Anomalies were very fun in general. They impact the game in a way that adds interest and isn't too extreme. Xera's was the most fun in my opinion. The worst one was the shuffle cards that you play into your deck. Super lame in my opinion. I also agree with this. How are you liking them so far, for better or for worse than you thought? And Meatman was like one of the main people that I saw that was like, didn't think it was possible for them to do anything that makes me dislike Hearthstone more than I already do. But they've done it with the anomalies. But you want to know something? Even the Meat Man was wrong, and he admitted it. I take it back. Actually, quite enjoyed playing with the anomalies once I high rolled the right ones. This is exactly the point that I'm talking about, where it's like this take of I don't like randomness because I lost to it. What about all the games that you won with the randomness? Are those suddenly excluded because you actually won the game and you got that dopamine rush because you actually won the game? And it's like, I can also understand this take from Savitz. Many of them are fine, not too intrusive, but like the Shuffle a Copy card you get to play into your deck is just not a game mode that I queued up for anyone. I get that some people like Tavern Brawls, etc., but I'm not trying to play that. I'm trying to play Standard. But here's the thing about anomalies in general. Not every single one of these anomalies is going to be like something that completely like turns the game into a quote-unquote tavern brawl. So I'm actually not a big fan of that take in general. And after playing with the anomalies, I know which ones are going to impact the game the most, because most of these are just like a little extra thing of spice, an extra flavor, or like kind of like a different way to approach the game. But since it benefits both players, it's really easy to take advantage of. Like case in point, the ones that discount your minions or your spells by 1 for the first one that you cast, those are absolutely fine. So it's like, case in point, both players start with Yogg-Saron, Hope's End in your hand. You're starting with a 10 mana card, not that big of a deal. It starts in your opening hand, and you can build up the Yogg if you want to. First minion played on each player's turn costs 1 less. Might be powerful with the coin in some instances, but it's not overall like completely warping the game to where it's going to feel like a quote-unquote tavern brawl. It just feels like an extra buff. This does impact the game for the rest of the game, but it's not like it completely warps the game like one certain anomaly that we've already mentioned. Both players have 1 attack. How is this bad to the point where people are so pissed about anomalies? I do not understand this, because you just get essentially a free Demon Hunter hero power every single turn. This anomaly is absolutely fine. Driven excess. Whenever a player ends their turn with unspent mana, they draw a card. This is actually really interesting because now you have the option to try and float mana to try and draw cards, and if you are a slower deck, this feels really good for you because you're probably spending not all of your mana in some instances, like Warlock on turn 1. You don't have to play a tour guide if you don't want to. You can just get a free card draw instead of taking 2 damage in order to get that. So this one does impact the game for the entirety of the game, but it's not like it's completely meta warping. This is like the point that I'm trying to drive home, because it's not as bad as people are making it out to be. They just see the word random and they lose their minds. Like, can we just take a step back, play with the cards, and then give our opinion? Whatever happened to that, Twitter.com? Whatever happened to that, Reddit? Like, I'm going a bit on a rant here because I was really annoyed yesterday because I got a lot of negativity in my streams towards anomalies, and it's like, dude, I don't understand where this hate is coming from. You guys have barely even played the cards, and one anomaly changing the game. You just gotta take your L and move on. Like, I hate to say that, but it's a random game. It's a card game. You take your L's. You get more W's than your L's. That's how you win at the game. You're not gonna win every single game of Hearthstone. Let me full screen this. You are not gonna win every single game of Hearthstone. So, for the love of God, stop letting these anomalies stop letting anomalies get to you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Fast Track. Reduce the cost of all cards in both players' hand by 1. This one is actually pretty nuts depending on the deck that you're playing, and I can understand why some people don't like this one in particular. Because, like, I had a turn as an aggro paladin playing mechs, to where I had 1 mana mechs, I had the Inventor's Aura that discounted all my mechs by 1, and I essentially vomited my entire hand by turn 1 and made like a really large board. But you want to know something? Against a Control Warrior, they had Bellowing Flames into Verse Rift, and they were able to almost get rid of everything and left me with a 1/2 left over. So again, both players are benefiting from this. You know what the anomaly is before your mulligan. You know what the anomaly is before you even get your mulligan in general. So it's like, you can work with these cards. Stop trying to, stop thinking that this is going to completely destroy your Hearthstone experience. Let's move on to the rest of them. Fortifications. At the end of each player's turns, give a random one of their minions +1 health. How is this game breaking? It's not game breaking. It's just a little bit of flavor that maybe if you're playing like a deck that likes to go tall instead of going wide, you can make that minion a little bit more fortified. Makes sense in my opinion. You have Gift of Gluttony. Both players start with 2 more cards drawn. This literally just impacts the first turn. That's it. Why are we losing our minds over this? You get to start the game with 2 extra card draws. That's it. Moving on. Light and the Dark. Both players' hero powers cost 1 less. Unless you're constantly playing Warlock, then maybe this can be a little bit annoying, because then you have to worry about 1 mana taps every single turn. But this isn't even that big of a problem. If anything, the biggest problem is that this doesn't work with Gen yet. They're going to be fixing it. But regardless, this does impact the game for the rest of the game. But this isn't like a quote-unquote tavern brawl approach. This isn't even a tavern brawl, dude. You guys are just overreacting. Like, good lord. I'm going to keep saying this, by the way. A lot of people are just completely overreacting. The first card drawn is on the player's turn is one they can afford to play. Okay, this one I can understand. This one does have like Tavern Brawl-esque feelings, to where if you do end up getting like the nuts, if you do end up getting this and you don't even have a deck that has that many curve options, then you're going to be very limited in your turns until about turn 10, where you get to draw almost any card that's available. But at the same time, this isn't as limiting, to where it's like on turn 1 you draw a 1-drop, on turn 2 you draw a 2-drop, on turn 3 you draw a 3-drop, etc. Turn 3 you could draw a 2-drop. So as the game progresses, this effect essentially becomes nothing. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Next, you have Severed Souls, which unfortunately doesn't work with Renathal. I don't know if it's going to be fixed that way, but the reason why is because anomalies trigger before the start of game effects actually happen. So you start with 35 HP, and then Renathal sets you to 35 HP. I think that anomalies should happen after start of game effects happen, which is why it doesn't, like, hero power stacks don't work with Gen and Baku very well, why Renathal doesn't work with this. But plus 5 HP? Come on, man. This is the reason why we're getting upset. I don't understand this whatsoever. And I'm just going to go ahead and spoil something. There's only one anomaly I can understand people being very upset about, but guess what? It's a 5%. And then after this week, that 5% turns into a 5% after you have to roll a 1 in 4, a 25% into a 5%. Are you really going to let those odds make you this mad about the game? Take a step back, take a deep breath, realize that you might be over-exaggerating or overreacting a little bit, and move on and accept that you lost a game. I feel like this is mostly where these sentiments are coming from. Both players start with Gear Shift in their hand. Absolutely fine. I get to mulligan away bad cards and essentially get like a new mulligan if I don't like the cards in my hand. This card's absolutely fine, and the one time that I got this anomaly, I didn't even use the Gear Shift. It didn't impact the game. It barely impacts the game for the rest of it. Both players start with 2 copies of Shifter Xeris in their hand. This one, I can understand some players being upset about because I had a friend that was playing in Rage Warrior, and he did not like having extra minions that were going to take away the buffs. And if you don't have, the Shifter Xeris transform into a minion you can actually just tempo from your hand, then your Anima Extractors are not getting all of the value that you want them to. So I can understand a little bit of, anger towards that, but overall, it's random minions that can sometimes make a big impact, or you might be able to have a minion play when you just want to pass your turn. Absolutely fine card. It doesn't, actually change how the game is played. It's just 2 extra resources. Are we really losing our mind over 2 extra resources? You shouldn't be. Let's see. Spread of Corruption. The first spell cast each player's turn costs 1 less. Again, absolutely fine. Both players get the benefit from this. Unless you're a minion-based deck that barely has any spells, maybe you're a little bit upset about getting this anomaly. But overall, this feels absolutely fine unless you get Symphony of Sin on turn 4. And that already happens with Coin anyway. So this does impact the game for the entirety of the match, but it's not like it's dictating who wins the game. This is really what I'm trying to sell here. A lot of these anomalies just add a little extra spice. They're not even all that game-breaking until we get to, I think, the very last one. Surging Inspiration. Both players start with upgraded hero powers. This is one that, I can kind of understand people being like, not too sure about this one. Upgraded hero powers. I like hitting buttons. Against Warrior, for example, this is probably going to suck in order to have to deal with a tank up, rank up. Against Warlock, getting free card draws. Rogue getting getting a 2/2 weapon every single turn they want. Maybe it's okay, but overall, this just really doesn't make that much of an impact. And actually, the changing your hero power feels a lot worse than this one, because Warlocks really don't want to be seeing that one. That's the one anomaly that Warlocks never want to see. But overall, this is absolutely fine. I don't understand why people are losing their minds over upgraded hero powers that happen 5% of the time. Then you have, okay, I'm going to save this one for last. Uncontrollable Growth. Both players start with an extra mana crystal. You're literally starting the game at 2 mana. We're losing our minds over this? I don't understand. I don't get it. I'm repeating this because I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to make a point that these are impacting the game. Technically, yes, but they're not they're not flipping the table and favoriting one deck in particular. And it's unless you're playing Token Shaman and your hero power gets taken away, what are we getting upset about? I just don't understand it. Unimaginable Horrors. Both players discover a new basic hero power on their turn. Makes sense why some people don't like this. Like I just said, with Warlock losing its tap and with Totem Shaman losing its hero power, sometimes this can feel bad. But guess what? It's just a week of 5%. If you lose the 5%, you just accept that you lost it, and then you move on to the next game because you had a 95% chance of getting something that wasn't as impactful. I don't know. I've been saying the same things over and over again. Your eyes betray you. Both of our decks are golden. This literally does nothing. This allows you to experience golden cards, and unless you have a machine that can't handle golden cards, no one should be upset about this one. This is literally just, oh, you got an anomaly, but it's not even doing anything. You just get to play a little bit of a fun game. I just don't understand it. And now the one anomaly that I can understand people losing their minds about, and unfortunately, I don't have any experience with this anomaly after 7 hours of playing. I never queued into this one, unfortunately. But I think I will later today over at twitch.tv/ClarkHELLSCREAM. Make sure you follow the Twitch channel. But oh my god, Twist Reality, now I can understand why we're getting upset about some of these anomalies. After a player plays a card this game, shuffle a copy into their deck. Honestly, I feel like this should just be your first card to get shuffled into your deck, because this literally means you're never going to fatigue. And there was actually a really funny screenshot from Otters that I have to pull up here real quick. Because unless you're playing a deck like specifically Tony Druid where you need to get into fatigue, then like Twist Reality does kind of counter the deck, but this is more so just a frustrating thing because now you have to suddenly roll like 1 in 30s all the time in order to get like the whatever card that you're looking for. And like finally, I can understand why people are upset about this card or upset about anomalies in general, because it does feel bad in order for this to happen when you're playing like an aggro deck that literally has no card draw, and now suddenly like you're being limited in that sense. This does impact the game. This does sometimes feel bad as the game progresses, while all the other anomalies kind of like fade out into obscurity because they did their thing and now they're done. This one does keep affecting the game, and I can understand why some people are going to be upset about it. But why am I recording this video? Why am I talking about all of this? Because I'm really sick and tired about people getting mad about mechanics before they even hold them in their hand. You can be worried about anomalies ruining the game. You can be concerned that you're not going to have fun with it. You can be a little bit afraid of what this is going to mean for the game for the next couple of months, because when you hear something is going to change how the game is functionally played for, you know, the next month or two, that's fine to be upset and to be a little bit worried about what's going to happen. But one day after anomalies, some people backtracked on what they thought was going to ruin the game, and now it's absolutely fine. Like, I just... ranting. I realize I'm ranting. I understand this, but I'm going to keep this in the video because I'm really trying to show a point here to where people got to stop losing their shit about mechanics before they even play it, because you might be overreacting. There are some situations that are a little bit concerning, and like the Twist Reality, that's what everyone said was what they were worried about, and it turns out they were right, but all the other anomalies are absolutely fine. They are absolutely fine. Ow, my hand. But that's pretty much all that I really needed to say, is that I'm really sick and tired of people trying to ruin these mechanics and getting so upset and getting so mad and literally starting discourse online about mechanics they literally haven't played with yet. Card games are unpredictable sometimes because you can't think of every single possibility. Take a chill pill, maybe do something for your mental health, and then play the game and realize how good or bad it actually is. Stop forming these opinions before we actually get to play the cards. You can be concerned, you can be worried, but for the love of God, stop trying to ruin Hearthstone mechanics before they're actually in the game.